I've read a couple of other articles and all of that, and they're talking about it being a systemic thing. So that incidents have happened in the past, they've been brushed under the carpet for years and years and years. And the fact that, like Theo, you mentioned, people like players who have experienced it are not brave. I haven't spoken about it until now or until recently. So all of this happening, I just want to ask you, Theo, do you think it's a systemic thing, or are we just seeing a few rotten eggs being weeded out of, exposed, and then of course being kicked out of the sport?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know it's like a non-answer, but I think, the eggs in question are very rotten, and maybe more rotten than most would be kind of, I think, like we said, Paul Riley is obviously a more evil, sinister, abusive character than most, but the systems in place give people in power an opportunity to abuse. And so I think, especially if you want to blow it up, the NWSL investigated Riley in 2015, didn't do anything about it, and he got another job. So that shows you that the system is failing all types of abusers, whether they're Paul Riley or whether they're much less abusive than that. So the system is not fit right now to keep the players safe and to pull out abusers or pull out rotten eggs, if you like. I don't think, or the optimist in me thinks that there aren't as many rotten eggs as we're seeing right now, and that the system has allowed these people to coach in the NWSL. And it's not really just a US issue in that respect, because Paul Riley's English, Richie Burke's English, Farid Ben-Siti is French, Christy Holly, who was removed from Racing Louisville in the NWSL, is Irish. So you're seeing men from all over the world, because of the structure of the NWSL and its kind of position of silence, they've been allowed to work there. So again, it feels like the system is bad, and that's let the rotten eggs in. I like to think there are more positive characters around.
Yeah, and I guess it's also, I suppose, and I'm kind of drawing sort of some inspiration from this TV show called Line of Duty. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So it's similar there, where the whole debate is it just a few rotten eggs in the system, or is the entire system itself sort of corrupt, or like you mentioned, enabled this corruption to take place and fester and grow into this massive thing? And Shefali, I just want to get your thoughts also on this. So is there a sort of fear amongst those at the higher ups and right down, that they know that this is happening, but they are afraid of change? So they don't want, because if this were to come to light that people could call for an entire revamp of the situation, they could find themselves out of their prestigious jobs and all of that. So how much of it is down to sort of the fear of change? Yeah, I guess that's what you call it.
Look, I mean, so here we're talking about them being scared of change, but that still makes them enablers, and that's kind of an issue here, because when you mentioned the rotten eggs, right? So like you mentioned, the system is enabling them, but the problem is that quite a few rotten eggs are up top, right? So it's they are building a huge foundation of the system, and then if along with that foundation they're going to be enabled by even higher ups, it's still going to collapse regardless of how scared they are of change or whatever. I mean, it did take like 6 years, I understand, and that's a risky business to be in. I mean, to think that it's going to take 6 years to be heard even. But I think the whole point of rotten eggs here is that it's I like I said, I mean, I think it's because to think that they feel that they don't need to worry about being shifted up or down or whatever, or just being, I mean, even for the fact that them not giving reason for why a person was taken off of the team or given administrative leave, etc., that is enabling them, because you're not giving out the reason as to why this person is not coaching our team, you're just letting him go. So if the system is going to work in this way, they're constantly enabling them. It doesn't matter how scared they are of change. It could also be just one owner enabling the person while removing them, saying that, yeah, I mean, we don't want you, but you're good to go with some other team. That's still, constantly encouraging them to just do whatever they want. And that's not nice.
Yeah. And again, I know this is I'm probably drawing inspiration from too many movies or TV shows. I should probably just stop watching TV. But I haven't seen something like this before at least in sport, like that huge scale news story. But it kind of reminds me if you watch Spotlight about the Catholic priest stuff. Now I know you can't shift managers from one club to another if they've done wrong, but like Shefali mentioned,
you can in the NWSL. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. You can. But the fact that you are sort of accepting resignations from people, but the fact, or firing them under other pretenses or like other pretexts, like saying that they've probably not got the results that they've got. You're giving them a different explanation as to why you've either fired them or why they've resigned. That's sort of like, I know in the NWSL you couldn't shift managers, but that's another way of looking at it, like an alternative to kind of say that, okay, we know that it's happening, but we're not acknowledging it, but here we are taking him out of position. So it's kind of acknowledging it, but also you're covering it up by giving another sort of alternate explanation as to why you're doing that. And yeah, it's scary. Not gonna lie, but Theo, when we've obviously seen a couple of these incidents happen, but was there no, like, why did it take so long, basically?
I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I think what you're seeing, when we talk about the people at the top, so Lisa Baird, I suppose, as the commissioner of the NWSL, she wasn't there in 2016 or 2015 when the initial, but she was obviously there now. And she knew about the investigation. Merritt Paulson, the owner of the Portland Thorns, I guess, would be the person I would put this on. They are people who feel that the growth of the game is more important than bringing these stories to light. So like Shefali very eloquently said, when you put a different reason on the firing, let's just say results, you don't say it was because of abuse. Merritt Paulson, Lisa Baird, these characters with the power, they believe that that is better for growing the game, because if the NWSL has a scandal like this and people really know how the coaches are behaving, people won't want to watch it. Parents, children, they'll go somewhere else. That's the idea. I think that's why it took so long. Obviously, that's not the right way to behave, not just for the human rights and safety of these players, but because truth is the truth, right? It's taken 6 years, it's come out anyway. And that looks far worse on the silencing of people like Merritt Paulson, owner of the Portland Thorns, and Lisa Baird, than it does if you came out the first time. And I think this is the big issue, like you're saying, like, why does this happen? Money. That's basically why people think, Paul Riley was winning trophies and was a good coach. And so therefore no one wanted to rock the boat. And that's basically the trade-off, or has been the trade-off. Again, people wrongly thinking that's the right thing to do is don't upset a good coach. Don't give the league any bad news stories. But in reality, you can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for them, it felt like if we do acknowledge this, it would be taking 3 steps backwards to just probably move 1 step forward. But the 1 step forward would be the right direction, I suppose. Like, if you take 3 steps back, revamp the whole thing, the first step forward would be the best step forward, I suppose. And and I know from the start of this episode, I've been trying to figure out a word for it. I was trying to think of story, I was trying to think of incident. You actually mentioned the word right there, and it just so coincidentally happened to be a name of another TV show, Scandal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Maybe I should then watch some more TV. Anyway.